2026, and yet the world is getting worse and worse. Today, we're going to be covering the announcement that Labour is looking to bring in digital IDs for newborn babies. We've got Zohran Mamdani doing a Nazi salute during his inauguration. Sadiq Khant turns the New Year's Eve firework display into a woke shit show. Crypto users are going to be forced to share account details regarding taxation. And Lily Phillips, that absolutely lovely lady, has apparently been baptized. We've got some footage of that came out recently. So has she actually come to Jesus? I don't know. I hope so if that's the case, but we'll get into that a bit later, a few of my thoughts. But there'll be even more to come on the Montgomery Toms Show. Okay, so people who've been following me consistently for a long time know that digital IDs is something I've been speaking about since about 2021 during the vaccine passport papers, please nonsense we saw. And now they're kind of coming into fruition, and huge amounts has been happening over the past few months regarding digital IDs. One thing I always warned about was mission creep. Doesn't matter what the excuses they bring forward about, oh, well, digital IDs will be there to stop the boats, or it will be about convenience. It'll be about an easier, more secure way to access your information. I always said, this is nonsense. No matter what they say, it will be weaponized against the general public. There'll be social credit systems involved. There'll be more tracking, more monitoring, more surveillance. And lo and behold, yes, I was right, along with millions of other people who have come out and said very similar things over the past few years. Now they're saying that newborn babies are to have a digital ID. So the youth, the babies, the children are being used and attacked as ever. The future of this country, if you can start when they're young, then you can grow them and mold them into however you want to be. This is why I insist on young people being taken out of the education system, or at least parents having a much more in-depth role in terms of how their children are educated, because little do they know what happens within school is completely dystopian and Orwellian. Anyway, I digress. When it comes to digital IDs, it's the same mentality. If we can get babies to have a digital ID, then they will just be locked into this Orwellian system, which is going to be very hard to undo. So digital IDs are going to be there, as I said, to track, monitor, surveil, and bring in a social credit system which is there to control us based on our behaviour. They have this in China. So essentially, if you jaywalk in China, though we don't have jaywalking laws here, but the metaphor still stands, your social credit score will go down and you won't be able to access certain things from like vending machines, for example. So you're constantly monitoring your own behaviour. Digital IDs, they're not secure. In fact, the technology that is used for the one login system, which is the building blocks of a digital ID system in the UK, which allows you to have a unified access to things like HMRC, Companies House, DVLA, that technology was actually built in Romania. They actually put it through a security test and found out that it can be hacked into and the hacker can go in anonymously and not be caught. I mean, this is just insane, and that is where people's data is going to be stored, including potentially your newborn baby. It is grim. It's disgusting. This is the hill to die on. If digital IDs are brought in, we're screwed. If young people are attacked to this extent, it's over. I mean, it's really depressing to say because that sounds so pessimistic and dystopian. A lot of people might think it's just inevitable, but that kind of mentality is going to get you nowhere. I think Labour will fail in doing this, and the more we see of them attempting to push this narrative, the more we see people pushing back. And unlike lockdown days when we turn around and said, don't lock the country down, don't bring in vaccine passports, don't roll out the vaccine full stop, make sure there's informed consent, the public wasn't on our side when a lot of us were saying that. But when it comes to digital ID, you'll find people on the left, people on the right, people who don't even care about politics, aren't interested in the nonsense that the government is pushing forward regarding enforcing this. And as soon as they hear that their children are going to be attacked with this too, I feel like the pushback's going to become even stronger. So my message couldn't be more clear. Don't comply. Don't ever allow your baby to have a digital ID, and be hyper vigilant and aware as to the actual motivations to bring in a Brit card and a way of tracking and monitoring us through a centralized database. It's not about the boats. It's not about convenience. It's not about helping with centralizing your data so everything's accessible. It's got nothing to do with protecting your privacy. It is there for quite the inverse, to attack your fundamental liberties, freedoms, and allow any future government, whether you like them or dislike them, to know where you're going, what you're doing, what you're spending your money on. And this links, quite nicely to the other thing that I mentioned, which is the fact that crypto users are going to be forced to share their account details with tax officials. So crypto, one of the few things which is there to protect your money and give you an element of privacy and autonomy, is now being attacked. I mean, I keep using this word attacked because that really is what it feels like. We're being attacked from all sides. Everywhere we try and escape to, where we can have more privacy and have a private life, the government, those in power, those above the government, want to strip that from us. They want to invade our personal life, and they want to know exactly what they're doing to control and manipulate us. And I think my recommendation would put your money into gold. Though we don't have a gold standard in the UK, and that's a whole other video I think we should do. Gold is my most preferred place of keeping my money invested. Crypto is also incredibly good, but if they're starting I feel like it's, by their standards, too unregulated. We've got to regulate, and I'm just trying to outrun the amount of red tape and watching and big brother attitude they have to our money. I'm self-employed, so I get the perks of managing my own taxation, but they're even wanting quarterly taxation now in digital banking, and company directors, 8 million company directors, to have the first form of a digital ID, which is being phased in as we speak, so you can't even run your company properly unless you go through the digital ID process. They're not going to force you to have it, but they are just going to make it impossible to live without one, which, if you ask me, that is forcing you to have it. So I just wanted to chuck in that extra story and just highlight that it's not just about digital ID, it's about taxation, it's about a cashless society, it's about CBDCs, it's about regulating crypto, which is one of the few private avenues we have of protecting our money and living outside of kind of a central banking system. It's everywhere. Mass digitalization and the suffocation of our privacy and what we do with what makes the world go around, which is money. So yes, don't have a digital ID. This is just my daily top up as to what's going on in the world of enforcing what some might call the mark of the beast, but I'll leave that for speculation. Very recently, I have collaborated with a brand new deodorant company delivering 100% natural deodorant. Natural health has always been an important part of my life. I fought against all of the COVID vaccines and all of the masks and all of the very unhealthy COVID measures that were brought in back in 2020. Breathe Me as a company wanted to collaborate with me to bring forward a product which protects your body from the harmful toxins that are injected into you, in a sense, from other toxic deodorant brands. So I present Cigars and Whiskey deodorant, the more masculine scent, and the Lemon Drizzle scent, which is there predominantly for women, but of course, men can use it too, and vice versa. I highly recommend these products. I use them every day. Incredibly, it's the only natural deodorant that has ever 100% worked for me and doesn't fuel my body with a bunch of rubbish that causes cancer and all sorts of other poor health conditions. So head over to www.breathebe.com and purchase yours today. So Sadiq Khan, or should I say Sadiq, that would have just been censored. But what did he do New Year's? Well, he's our lovely DEI mayor, one of the worst men I think on planet Earth. He decided to take one of the few things which is nice at New Year's, which is, a firework display where, do you know what? I think some people would rather their money didn't go into that massive firework display, but at least it gives a little bit of joy. One of the few things left, in London. Londoners can reminisce as to what's happened over the past year, as rubbish as it has been. Past 5 years have been awful. In fact, the past 20 years have been pretty awful. But instead, Sadiq Khan thought, nah, let's not do that. Let's just turn it into a complete show. Let's put the European Union flag there and every single national flag, showing how diverse and how equal our country is and how we've got great multiculturalism in London. But let's actually watch the video. So if you haven't seen it, you can get a taste for what I'm actually talking about.
Here's what England means to me, the real England. When it's sunny, it's too hot. When it's cold, the weather's rubbish. England to me is a cup of tea. How many sugars? I'm sweet enough. England to me is Caribbean barbers with the sharpest trim. It's Christian neighbours saying happy Hanukkah, mate, and Muslim mums saying Merry Christmas, love. And you think you're seeing flags now? Wait until the World Cup's on. Then you'll know about flags, my son. Because this is what England means to me. It's about loving each other, no matter what colour you are, where you're from, or who your God is. Because this is England. This is the United Kingdom.
Lowry has done it, and on American soil, Europe have retained the Ryder Cup.
So really, this wasn't like a New Year's Eve celebration display to see in 2026. It was actually about Sadiq Khan showcasing his horrific lefty nonsense around saying, yes, well, we do miss the European Union, you know, the awful kind of centralized government perspective and the way that they have destroyed huge amounts of our country and allowed freedom of movement and, you know, allowed millions of people to come into our country that we don't particularly want. All sorts of regulation that we don't like, but, you know, forget that we had Brexit. We still copy and paste the majority of the legislation that the EU bring through anyway, and our current Prime Minister was very vocal about how he didn't want Brexit and would have actually reversed it had he come into power instead of Jeremy Corbyn. But Sadiq Khan follows in the same footsteps and, you know, decides to put this, you know, on display on the London Eye as some sort of like, you know, virtue signaling nonsense, along with a cascade of every single flag to show how multiculturalism is thriving and is really great. Yeah, it's doing really, really great. I really love the multiculturalism in London. I really feel like, you know, when I go around the streets of London that I'm in a British city. Absolutely love it. Anyway, we don't love it, we don't want it, and we don't want Sadiq Khan. How that man is still winning elections and has any say in our country, I don't know. He is horrific. And it's not just the multiculturalism nonsense aspect and the kind of promotion of mass migration and all that rubbish, but it's the ULEZ, it's the low traffic neighbourhoods, it's the net zero obsession. It basically wasn't a firework display for, you know, London. It was an ego trip from Sadiq Khan to basically use it as an opportunity to ram his nonsense politics down our throats. It's a mockery. It's an absolute joke. We have a Muslim mayor who struggles singing Christmas carols. I don't know if anyone remembers that. Also puts loads of gay pride kind of displays down tube station corridors, who has a disgusting city with really high knife crime, who thinks that facial recognition is a really good idea, who spends our money on firework displays, which, as I say, we may not particularly want, but nevertheless, fine, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But then basically mocks us and takes the mick out of us and says, haha, I'm going to take your taxpayers' money, I'm going to put on one of the few nice things that happen a year, and I'm going to ram my ideology down your throat. That's Sadiq Khan. Absolute prick. Can't stand the man. I'd love to see him in kind of like a boxing fight or something, you know. I'd like to see Sadiq Khan lawfully destroyed, you know, put it that way, without, you know, getting myself in any trouble. We all know that Keir Starmer can box really well, don't we? You know, who remembers that brilliant video? Anyway, so I don't get myself in trouble and continue insulting those that have incredible amounts of power and hate my opinions and basically the whole country's opinions very much, we'll move on to the next thing I wanted to cover. Zohran Mamdani, the Sadiq Khan equivalent, essentially, of New York City. Is he worse or better than Sadiq Khan? I don't know. I'm going to leave it for you to decide, because quite honestly, that's like choosing between a pile of shit and another pile of shit, you know. I'd rather have neither, to be honest. Anyway, he goes and he has his inauguration.
My heart goes out to you.
So isn't it funny how different sides react to things? So Musk, who, by the way, I'm not a big fan of Musk. I think his sort of Neuralink nonsense and sort of transhumanism stuff is repulsive and completely anti-human, and I don't agree with it at all. I also think Teslas are horrific, and I think electric cars are a bunch of rubbish. But, you know, you could argue he's done good things for free speech, even though there's some censorships in places on the X algorithm, and it's not entirely kind of free speech absolutist centered. He's done more good than bad, but, you know, wolf in sheep's clothing, who knows? There's definitely a good argument to say that. However, he definitely did not do a Hitler salute at Trump's second inauguration. But when Zohran Mamdani essentially does the same thing, you know, my heart will go out to you, no, look, I'm a Nazi. What happens? Nothing. But you can see in the footage quite clearly that they're very similar, but no one reacts the same way. Obviously, there's a complete bias towards hating people that are normal, rational, and don't believe in giving out loads of freebies to a city in order to make it better. What you will do is just make it horrifically worse and promise a bunch of things to young, naive people who these days just expect everything to be given to them on a plate. That's the problem with lefty socialism. Whereas me, you know, I didn't take that path. I opted for doing the hard things and welcome pain and struggle, and I'm not a victim to difficulty. And those that don't know me very well, you know, can assume I've not gone through much difficulty, which is fine. But I know myself, I've faced my fair share of rubbish in life, as does everybody. I don't talk about it, go on about it, you know. Don't be a victim of it. Just carry on. Head down. But young people don't want that. They want a Zohran Mamdani to deliver all the freebies, which is never going to work. So great. New York's gone as well. Now, I've never actually been to New York, but from what I hear, it's not too dissimilar from the nonsense we're seeing in London. You know, huge Islamification, mass migration, sort of removing the local culture, horrific prices when it comes to renting. I mean, almost impossible to live in a nice space in New York, similar to London, but coming in and throwing a bunch of nonsense money that you're going to pull out your ass somewhere from the American taxpayer is not going to be the solution. It's just going to make it a lot worse. And I look forward to sitting back and watching this play out along with all the other sensible kind of traditional liberal conservative sort of sphere where we turn around and go, you know, that's not what you do, and we'll see how it plays out. But it will play out terribly. I could bet my bottom dollar on it. And not to mention the guy's just a woke moron. How, you know, again, how can anyone piece together being a Muslim and then endorsing pride? It's just madness. There's a complete inconsistency in there, but then kind of the Muslim sphere. Now, who knows why? I could go into a complete breakdown as to why Islam is the way it is. But that, again, is for another video. Okay, so Lily Phillips took a very dark path in life, and recently she got baptized.
Everything that I've read, praise the Lord. Worship Christ with the best of your portions. I know I won't forget.
Now, I'm uncomfortable in a way, because if she genuinely has taken the path of Christ, you know, Christianity, and is withdrawing from that entire scene, as awful as it is, then great. You know, that is incredible. And I don't judge, or internally I do judge Lily Phillips, of course, but it's not my place to judge. We've all got a past, we've all got a history, some worse than others. Mine not perfect. You watching this video, definitely not perfect. Lily Phillips, quite explicitly not perfect, and let the whole world see something that she pursued, which quite frankly is dehumanizing and very, very sad to see, and a metaphor for where Western civilization has gone when it comes to the sanctity of marriage and the beauty of relationships and intimacy and the private life between man and woman and sex and sexuality and all of these things. You know, she publicly showed exactly what's happened to the West and what feminism has got us to. But if she has been baptized and taken the road of Christianity, then that's amazing. If she hasn't, and this is a publicity stunt, and this is actually her basically trying to just sort of shake off her history and, you know, act like she's just been washed of all the terrible things that she's contributed to society, then that is very, very dark and depressing that somebody can do that. Because the thing is, you see a lot of these OnlyFans models take the path of, they get a lot of money, they get paid for it, and then it's like, now I've got my millions and millions of pounds, huge public profile and all the publicity, I'm now going to take the path of Christ. It's like, okay, well, what are you going to do with all of the money? It's like that porn star Lana Rhoades did this recently as well. She said something like, I think I saw her say something along the lines that she wants all of her videos to be removed or something. It's like, okay, well, what are you going to do with the millions and millions of pounds that you've made out of the porn industry? Whilst I completely disagree with it, it's like, right, yeah, but you're not gonna, you know, give that money somewhere else. No, you're definitely going to keep it, aren't you? So If Lily Phillips has taken the legitimate path of Christianity, then that is amazing, and that's a real kind of nice thing to see into 2026, and to know that somebody can reject that path and be completely washed and cleansed of that rhetoric and history and the actions that she took. Wonderful. If it is a mockery of Christ and a complete show, a pantomime essentially, to try and sort of escape the darkness that she has contributed to the world, then, as I say, that is a grim, sad, depressing, devilish almost thing to do. It's so sad. So who knows the legitimacy? Maybe once this video is released, shortly after it is made, in fairness, we will discover maybe this was just a publicity stunt. People do this stuff just for clicks. But if it's legitimate, then that is absolutely wonderful, and just shows you the power of Christianity and how vital it is to our history, to the West, to us as individuals, and how it reinforces love and forgiveness. And there's a complete lack of forgiveness and contrition in Britain, especially, we saw after the horrific assassination of Charlie Kirk, where everyone was saying, we need to death penalty, death penalty, death penalty, and then I very publicly came out and said, no, this man should be forgiven and given the opportunity to repent and live a different life, definitely with justice, not anti-justice. He should go to prison for life and have a very, very hard time for what he's done. I'm not anti-justice, but I think that the death penalty is wrong, because you can't give the state the ability to kill. I think that's state overreach. I'm not comfortable about saying that any government has the power to enforce the death of somebody. It says, thou shalt not murder. It's very different to thou shalt not kill. And you think someone has to pull that lever, metaphorically, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone. So we do need forgiveness in our hearts. We do need to shift in a direction of Christianity. And even if you're not a Christian, respect and appreciate the Christian principles that have upheld and forged the wonderful nation which is Great Britain. Though we seem to be dying as a nation now, and I don't feel even comfortable saying Great Britain anymore, because that's basically just holding on to our incredible past rather than what it is now, which is just Britain, I suppose. We're gonna turn Britain exactly into what it used to be, Great Britain. We're going to bring back Christian principles. We're going to get rid of digital IDs. We're going to get rid of mass migration. We're going to get rid of this kind of top-down 1% versus 99% agenda. And we're going to have freedom. We're going to have autonomy. We're going to have our private lives back, because this goes through cycles. The world goes through cycles. And whilst it seems dreadful now, I'm always of the optimistic stance that the people can win. We can bring back individual liberty in full. We can get rid of the ability for any future government to do what it's been doing over the past 5 years, Labour, Conservative, I don't care, two wings of the same bird as far as I'm concerned. So we've seen into 2026, we've seen Lily Phillips get baptised, we've seen digital IDs being pushed on babies, we've seen cryptocurrency being stripped of one of the few things it was really good at, which was, privacy, and having a way of holding your finances away from the glaring eyes of the tax man and any other individual really that wants to have access to bank accounts, etc. And we've also seen Zohran Mamdani get sworn in as mayor. Oh, and also our mayor do a utterly diabolical, rubbish, woke, kind of like cult display. That's what I want to call it. It's like he's heading a cult, and he just wants to sort of keep us whipped up in his utter rubbish, woke, virtue signaling bullshit, essentially. But we're not falling for it, because we are British, we have integrity, and there's still enough of us left to win this war. So, as ever, please support the channel, keep fighting for freedom, follow my work, drop a subscribe, support me over on my website, montgomerytoms.com/support, and there'll be some more longer, in-depth videos as the news cycle picks itself back up. It's been a bit of a quiet week in terms of topics that I usually like to kind of dig up and discuss on my channel. So next week is going to be a longer one. There's going to be more reactions. There's going to be a lot more happening to this channel, but I'm just going along bit by bit, learning. I'm doing all the technical stuff myself, by the way. I've got no cameraman. This is just me working out how to present, how to edit, how to produce everything. And I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to get better, I hope. As ever, I want your feedback, I want your criticisms, and I don't mind a compliment too. Speak soon. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Montgomery Toms. I'll see you in the next episode.